I've been a little bit worried about maybe learning Spanish or losing my culture here in America and him not being able to talk to his family back in Colombia, you know. Can I be?
To be fair, it makes sense for anybody to want their child to speak their native language, you know? So I definitely understand his frustrations or him trying to express it at this moment in time. But, well, we'll get into the but.
Together for 4 years, and since then she's been promising me that she's gonna learn Spanish. Most of my son.
You know what though? It's crazy because I said this and then I think Jessica then says it later on. But I said to myself, well, to be fair, would she have had time to learn Spanish this whole time when she's been a single mother looking after 2 boys and having a job and doing all that kind of stuff? And my first reaction was truly, well, to be fair, I can imagine how hard it would have been for her, especially also throughout the period where she became pregnant and then also, then gave birth. But then my thought changed. But we're going to get into that once we get to when Jessica says something else.
Like losing his culture, my culture, like Spanish. They won't be able to communicate with his family in Colombia because he don't speak the language.
Which is a very, very, very fair point. And to be fair, could we sit and say that as long as Juan speaks Spanish around his boy or, their child or even all the 3 boys, that that'll be more than enough to influence the language that the boys are going to speak? Well, when it comes to her sons, probably not. When it comes to their baby, potentially. But really and truly, do you want to be the only person in the household that is speaking Spanish and your child that you have with her is the only child who will also be speaking Spanish? But realistically, it'd be nice if everybody can speak Spanish and everybody can understand each other. You see what I'm saying? So really and truly, it's not something that they should have to do alone. It's something that they should definitely be doing together.
You speak English, the boys will come in, will speak English, and I'm the only one who will be speaking Spanish.
And I'm busy. I mean, I'm like, now you're here and I have help with David, but before I was doing everything on my own.
So here's the thing. Again, originally I was like, you know what? I see this point. But then I thought about it. This woman also had times to book flights to then go and see him. Times to go see, to not be at work while she went and saw him. The first time we saw them together, I believe did she bring the boys with her the first time? She either did or didn't, but either way though, it showed me and tells me that she's somebody that definitely could, spare a couple of minutes per day to learn some Spanish. So really and truly, should there be an excuse for her to not be speaking a form of Spanish by now? I don't believe so. Her knowing the bare minimum isn't good enough. Because realistically, at this point here, she should at least learn, a decent amount. What that decent amount is, I can't say because it depends on, of course, the person's learning abilities and obviously how easy they learn languages and all that kind of stuff. But what she's learned so far isn't something that you learn from a teacher. If you went to be taught by someone, these are the things that you learn just by being around him and him saying a few things here and there. But she only really knows the basis of yes, the things that we all know. See, So really and truly, I don't believe that there is any excuse for her to have not have learned at least, let's say, 10, 20%, maybe 30% of the Spanish language. I don't know if that percentage is too high, but it should definitely be more than what she has. And also on top of that, her kids, her boys, she could have been teaching them the same thing within the same timeline. And who knows, maybe one of those kids would have picked it up way much more faster than her, which usually would happen with kids anyway. But the fact that that hasn't happened is on her. So she can't really use this whole thing, I'm being busy, as an excuse, really and truly. I mean, hell, the woman had a whole time she had enough time to text her ex, get close to her ex, and even see her ex physically. So all that time she was doing that, she could have been learning Spanish.
You just can't Spanish level.
But he lived in Colombia wherever he went.
Can I finish what I'm saying, please? He has that level of Spanish. I've never heard anybody. Yeah, can I finish, please?
Won't ever let my guy flip in and get his words out of his mouth. To be fair, him comparing his situation with his cousin isn't necessarily the same because they live in Colombia. Not the same.
I only heard excuses, and then I'm trying to say something. You're just stop, and then can I talk?
Yes, go talk.
Honestly, absolute diabolical behavior. Not even allowing the man to finish what he wants to say. That is not a good look.
It's kind of like a low blow because for the past 4 years of our relationship, I've been raising children. I've been working full time. I've been really busy and it's been really hard to find time to learn Spanish.
Again, you've had enough time to literally make a whole relationship with your ex. So you can't be saying that you haven't had time. So the time has been there. You know, and to be fair, nowadays you got apps like Duolingo. Obviously, I know people say they're not exactly 1000% accurate with certain things, but you got apps. You know what I mean? And really and truly, would it have been hard for her to just whip out the app, 10 minutes before bedtime and learn a little something? You know what I mean? Not at all. Would it have been bad for her to maybe use a little bit of her lunch break to literally learn a little bit of Spanish? No, not at all. I mean, maybe, and because she was able to text and book a meeting with her ex, she could easily still also have someone to actually speak to face or via Zoom. So to be fair, the opportunities were there for her to learn. So for her to say that, nasty work.
This conversation,
So it's like a make or break. You learn Spanish or I don't marry you.
Basically, I don't fully understand the sacrifice I'm making to be here, to be with her and the family.
To be fair, it wasn't funny when she came out with that comment. Oh, does it mean you're not going to marry me? That's not, come on. Let's not make the conversation into something else, okay? We don't need to go that route. But I am sick and tired of Juan and most people saying I don't think they realize how much sacrifice I'm making. Anybody that has to sit there and say I don't think this person recognizes what sacrifice I'm making, that's never a good thing, because really and truly you're saying that you don't feel valued. But the thing is that he's always complaining about sacrifices. He does it all the time. When is he not going to complain about sacrifices? So at the end of the day, if he's that bothered about sacrifice, well then leave the relationship. You don't need to be here. There's no point in complaining about sacrifices if you're not going to bounce. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, if you feel like that person is disrespecting the sacrifices that you made, then yeah, I'm not saying don't let it be known. But 9 times out of 10, when they say that in this show, it's a bunch of BS. But nonetheless, though, let's move on to the next couple.
Sí.
Ah,
Sí, ella es tu amiga.
ella es mi novia también, tía. Están casados.
Tell them.
It's crazy work, though. I mean, listen. So I mean, it's good that she finally told them that Matt's her boyfriend. Amani's her girlfriend, and they're married. I guess it's about time. It's about freaking time.
We have been married for almost 10 years.
Sé que está casada con el tío por 10 años.
For us to divorce for someone should show you how much we care about you.
I mean, to be honest, if you came to me and you said we've been married for 10 years and we decided to bring in a third person into our marriage, I'll be like, so basically your relationship isn't strong enough for you. So your relationship isn't strong enough for it to just be the two of you. So therefore you want to bring in a third one. Okay, cool. So what happens if you bring in a third person and then you also feel like it's still not enough? Are you then going to bring in a fourth person? A fifth person? When does your little stop coming? Because you've been married for 10 years, all of a sudden you now want to bring in a third person. Make that make sense to me. Convince me why that's okay. That's the energy that I be on. Because I'll be like, what? And now you're telling me that you also want a divorce yourselves, so one of you can marry my child, my niece. I'm pretty sure that was auntie, yeah, niece. But of course, there's a reason for that divorce, though. Let's get into it.
So you can also have a better life with your kids.
And you want to marry, so therefore she can leave the country, and obviously you don't have a better life. It's funny, isn't it? I'm actually sick and tired of people who live in America or even in any first world country that will say to someone that lives in a country that is less than, in perception basis, for a better life. I mean, listen, is she saying that they'll have a better life because they're going to move to America, or is she saying that they'll have a better life because they've got money to look after her and her kids? So to be fair, it may not even be about location, it may just be about their status. But either way, though, that's a slap in the face. Telling me that my life's going to be better with you guys because you can provide for me and my kids? Or you're telling me that my life will be better because I'm going to be living in America? I mean, you haven't even lived in Mexico to know the difference between where you live and where I live. Maybe where I live right now, my life is good. Maybe I have everything that I wanted. What if I move to America and then I don't have the things that I've always desired? What if I move there and then I realize the weather ain't as good as what I'm used to? Or I move there and I realize that the people there aren't as polite as the people that I'm used to? What if I move there and then I realize that the homes there aren't exactly to the standards that I'm used to, and I prefer our homes, or I prefer our roadmaps. I just prefer, what I mean? I'm just saying that, like, there's many times on my travels I've been to certain places, and I've been to countries that have been deemed as less than. For example, Poland. A lot of the time when Polish people come to the UK, they will portray Poland as if it's not as good as the UK. They just really downplay the hell out of it. When I was there, or when I went to Krakow, Zakopane, Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely freaking beautiful. Far better looking than many parts of the UK. You know, that's why I almost asked one of the ladies at the gym. I said, why are you here in the UK and not in Poland? Because of pay. Pay isn't as good. But to be fair, she said that the pay now is better there than what it used to be, so she could move back. But she's obviously built life for him. I was like, it makes sense. It makes sense. So I guess really and truly, some people move because the pay they get in their country isn't that great. You know, but it doesn't mean that the landscape of the country is less or is less than or more than. Do you see what I'm saying? Either way, though, I just feel like people need to stop making this comment about, oh, if you come with me, you have a better life. You're basically telling me that my life ain't shit. Or ain't never gonna be shit unless you have an involvement in it. Or maybe I'm looking too much into it. Let me know your thoughts.
Pero, ¿sabes qué? Me da mucho gusto. Veo en tu mirada que también la quieres mucho.
And of course, the aunt sat there and said, well, kneeled down and said, listen, I'm going to respect your wishes.
Gracias, tía. Pero usted cree que, pues, en algún momento pudiera darme la bendición de que, pues, que nos vaya bien en la relación.
Well, happy days for them. Happy days for them. To be fair, I guess we always knew that maybe this was always going to turn out to be, you know, a good reaction rather than a bad reaction. But I guess it's sometimes hard to know because the previews that they give us to make it sound like as if it's going to be a whole, you know, madness. But hey, this is exactly what the situation is. I mean, I'm happy for them all that it's worked out this way. But to be honest with you, bringing in a third person into the marriage, do I believe it's enough to fill in the gap that they were looking for or whatever? I don't think so. To be fair, on social media, I haven't seen Anahe make any posts with them. One bit. So I do question if they did work out. I got a feeling that the marriage never happened, and I got a feeling that they all went their separate ways. But I guess we're waiting to find when the season's over. Because right now, obviously, with the season being on, they can't display necessarily whether or not they are together or not. But hey, let's move on to the next couple. And if you're still here, it's clearly because you're liking the content and you want to subscribe. Come on now.
Personally, but my friends are very aware, as am I, of Sarper's past. So, you know, it does make sense that I protect myself. I mean, I'm going to do it because maybe one day he's going to just tell.
Last week I said I wouldn't be surprised if this woman put her friends up to this task. And basically what she's saying now in this week, she definitely put her friends up to the task of bringing out the prenup. Nasty work.
Tell me I cheated on you. I don't know. He could.
But why would you go through with marrying someone who you are worried may cheat on you though? It means you don't trust that person. And to be fair, throughout their whole relationship, all we have ever seen is the fact that she does not trust him. That has been her theme from the very beginning, and it continues to be a theme till this day. So the question is, why are you marrying someone that you don't know if you trust that they are always going to be faithful to you? That is a question that she needs to ask herself. Of course she won't.
If you are married, you are committed. You don't marry to think that you are going to divorce.
As a hot temper.
And also, what about actually respecting his culture, to be fair? Because that's what he said. But then again, at the same time, he did marry before and he didn't go to plan. So really and truly, even though that's not the ideal goal in Turkey, sadly, you've been through it yourself already. But I get it. For him, though, on the other hand, he's already been married where a divorce happened. He doesn't want to repeat history. So I respect that too. Does she respect that? Probably not. I just feel like her reasons of wanting a prenup are reasons that are good enough for them to not be married and not to be together. Sometimes when people have reasons for prenups, it makes sense why they want a prenup. In this situation, the prenup idea doesn't make any logical sense in any shape or form. Because it's all about just herself in a mean way, shall I say.
Like he flares up really fast, but he also cools down quickly. So even if he did just leave the house to cool down, he should be back by now.
He should be back by now, but he's not. Maybe he realized sense and realized that you are a wackadoodle that he needs to get away from.
It's been an hour. Maybe he's nervous.
Nervous? You think he's nervous about marrying you? That's why he's been back for an hour? No. He's pissed that you want a freaking prenup. Let's just call it what it is.
The real reason there's an AirTag on Sarper's keychain is because he won't share his location with me in maps. And
So you put air tag on it. The level of disrespect by this woman is nuts. You don't respect him. No, sorry. You don't trust him, so therefore you disrespect him by spying on him. She thinks this makes her any better than him. The fact that she does all these actions and thinks her actions are completely explainable is just crazy work.
And I think that if somebody is that against sharing their location, it's kind of suspicious and it feels shady. It feels like...
Okay, it's suspicious and it feels shady. That's fantastic. Okay, so why are you marrying him? Why are you marrying someone that you don't trust? A prenup isn't going to fix your trust. Even if he signs a prenup, it doesn't mean that you can now trust him. It doesn't mean he's going to change his ways. It doesn't mean because if he's this person that she's paranoid him to be, he's going to commit the crime of cheating regardless. Prenup or no prenup. But I get it. The prenup is to protect herself if da-da-da-da. But really and truly, what has she got that he can even take away from her anyway? Like, lady, you're on... Do you know what the dumbest thing is as well? You're marrying someone who's a foreign person. So when you marry him, you are responsible for him for 10 years. So with or without the prenup, you're still responsible for him regardless. That's the irony of it. Like, do prenups matter that much even when you marry someone who's from a different country, who's about to gain sponsorship from you? I guess it could still matter if you're somebody that has a shitload of money, 1000%. But if you're somebody that is like Shekinah who has... Yeah, you get my point. Nonetheless though, let's continue with the next couple. And I know you're still here, so like and subscribe. What was always going to be her worst nightmare? Not getting the answers she needs regarding her son. Sad as hell. The boy's already packed his bag thinking he's gonna go and see mommy. And he finds out, well, he doesn't even know yet that he's not gonna see her. Maybe this is all a prank and maybe he is there and he might just play a game with her. Imagine that was the case. But nonetheless though, obviously you have to wait until next week to see how this story develops. Obviously based in previews, it shows that she then decides to maybe not marry him because she wants her son to be in America, and without him being there, well, then upsets her. And also shows her potentially wanting to go back to France, which would mean that she wouldn't be able to return to the USA until another time maybe. I can't imagine it being a permanent ban because she's not doing anything wrong. It just means that she'd have to potentially come back on a different visa at some point, which would take God knows how long. So it's definitely one of the situations where there's a dilemma in hand. But again, we'll have to understand her thought process more within the following week. Right now, if I was to make a guess, not necessarily of her thought process in particular, but on the situation of how it could make her feel, I guess she's in a position where she doesn't know whether or not she can trust that her son's ever going to make it to America or not. So therefore, she doesn't want necessarily to be married if it means her son will never be in her life until whenever time that's going to be. I do love this part about Mina. Her son means a lot to her, and I love that. Something that we did not see from Jasmine. Just putting it out there. But let's get into the next one.
This day is my best day again. You not being here on this day is really sad because I would like to share these special moments with them. But I feel embraced with great family.
The arrival time on the invitation is 6:30. The ceremony starts at 6:30.
First and foremost, it's happy. I'm glad to see, obviously, you know, Joan having a celebration that reminds of home, reminds her, you know, allows her to at least feel close to the people at home, and you know, kind of give her that feeling of I'm not alone in this process, because him doing this gives her the backing that this man is out here because he really wants to try and do what he can to make me feel comfortable, and his family's here and they're celebrating my culture with me. So that is nothing but a beautiful moment. But this guy then goes off and does what? Books the wedding and the invitation at the same bloody time. Calamity.
So people are going to be arriving to the wedding while I'm getting married. I'm just so like, everything gets...
Trust Greg to make such bloopers.
set back if people start showing up later. If we start the ceremony late, then the cocktail hour starts late. I mean, these are all things that we've paid for. If we were to realize the mistake a little bit sooner, because...
To be fair, he's not wrong. Realizing the mistake a bit sooner would have been beneficial, but it is what it is. You got to play the cards that you hand with, or that you messed up, technically speaking.
I want Joan to be able to trust me. She wanted me to get a job and get my life together. I want to just know that I'm dependable and reliable.
I must say that this man truly loves that woman, and he's willing to do whatever he can to, make things work. She wanted him to get a job. He finally got a job. She wanted him to pay for the dowry, which I don't know if they confirmed he actually paid for it, but I know he said he's going to. And he's also gone above and beyond to make the wedding, ceremony beforehand special, with bringing people from Uganda to play music from back home. He also went out of his way to buy, obviously, clothing from that represents, obviously, an African person, which is absolutely fantastic. So the efforts he's made have been amazing. To be honest with you, Greg was the one of the people that beginning of the season, I ruled him out, man. I was like, this guy's gonna be something else. And also, every week she was literally putting him under pressure, like rightfully so, to be fair. But to see him go from being the way we thought, or at least the way I thought he was gonna be, to the way he's turned out now, with all this hard work he's putting in to make sure that this relationship works with the woman that he wants to marry and be with, man, I can only give the guy a tap on the freaking shoulder. You know what I'm saying? So I love to see it. But nonetheless, though, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. We'll talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.